today I forgot. What does that even say? Oh, it says Mark.
Ain't nothing bad.
No, that's good. That's good.
That's really good.
Last week I forgot to read a little thing about Tony Evans. We'll go back to rethink about when Jacob was wrestling with God and talking about afterwards. He had his hip dislocated and he was actually going to walk with a limp. And then here's what Tony Evans says about that. This suggests, talking about limping because of his hip, this suggests that any man God blesses will possess a limp. God will create something in that person's life that makes him despair of his own strength and lean on the Lord's instead. Jacob's limp, in fact, was so significant to his blessing that when the author of Hebrews mentioned Jacob's demonstration of faith, he mentioned Jacob's walking staff. And that's Hebrews 11:21. It's as if out of all the colorful scenes in Jacob's life, the writer of Hebrews wanted to say, in the end, Jacob was a man who was forced to lean on God. So Tony Evans wrote that pretty good there. And now I have a feeling when he's saying, this suggests that any man that God blesses will possess a limp. God will create something in that person's life. I don't necessarily mean like it's got to be a limp or a walking. Just like Paul's thorn that he had in his side, God wouldn't take it out because it helped humble Paul and be like, hey, I'm relying on you to get through it. So
something out of the ordinary.
Yeah,
anything out of the ordinary.
That's right.
You, hey, I'm not like I used to be.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. All right, so today we'll get into chapter 34 and 35. So at the end of 33, Jacob had bought land in Shechem, okay, and he probably shouldn't have. He should have just stayed, rested a little bit, and then kept on moving, but instead, because this is not where he was supposed to be staying at, but he went ahead and not only stayed there, but then wound up buying ground there. And like I said, he probably shouldn't have done it, because what happens next could have been avoided if he just would have rested for a little bit, stopped at the rest area, rested, and then kept going. But instead, he decided to stay there for a little too long. If he was supposed to be going to Bethel, the land of his fathers, and you have to go back to chapter 31, verse 3 to figure out, okay, exactly what he's supposed to be doing. But that's where he's supposed to be going. So this is another one of those detours, and this is a costly detour, and it winds up being, I know most of you probably read ahead, it winds up being kind of a big deal. Something not very godly happens in this chapter. So, all right, we'll get started with verse 1. It said, now Dinah, the daughter Leah had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. And that's in this land of Shechem. Like I said, this is not where he's supposed to be. So Dinah, more likely, is just being curious, okay? She's like, hey, we're in this place. I want to go out and mingle, get to know these people, maybe see how they live, what they do with the other women around there. And nobody has, like, that we at least know of, has warned her, like, hey, we're in basically a bad part of town, even though the whole town's bad. But nobody has warned her. So she's just out and about, looking around and checking in on the other ladies. So verse 2, it says, when Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and violated her. Yes, that means rape, forcible rape. And we're going to find out, not only did he take her, but actually held her hostage until later. We'll see. So it wasn't just a one-time rape deal and went on. He actually held her hostage. So verse 3, his heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob, And he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." A lot of people, when I was reading through this, they don't really think like he was really all that in love with this lady. Because when he says, "Just get me this girl as my wife," it's not very romantic. You know what I mean? Like, this dude done raped her, and I think he realized, like, hey, that wasn't so bad. I want to just basically take this girl. Some commentators say that this is in this time, it's not considered quite as severe as it sounds like to us in this culture. But now, compared to the Jewish culture at this time, I mean, this was horrible. I mean, this violated all kinds of God's laws. But where this Shechem and all that was, and like I said, I don't know this. I'm just going off of what I've read from other people. But like, it really wasn't all that out of the ordinary, so to say, all that severe. But for the Jewish people, you know, hey, especially for these brothers, Jacob, like, they just had their daughter, their sister raped, and now this dude is like, hey, I want to marry you. So, yep, chapter 34, verse 5. So verse 5 says, when Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock. So he kept quiet about it until they came home. So Jacob is being mute, okay? I have a feeling because it says his sons are out in the field. Because, I mean, he's outnumbered right now. He's going to wait till his sons are like, he's got a little protection with him. That's why he's not saying much right now. And he needed to wait for his sons to come in from working the field. All right, so 6 and 7. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Now Jacob's sons had come in from the field as soon as they heard what had happened. They were filled with grief and fury because Shechem had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. And notice there Israel already being used. It kind of a little bit goes back and forth between Jacob and Israel, but it's kind of transitioning into Jacob's name now is Israel. All right. So we got the sons are in. They've heard what's going on. Jacob knows, and Hamor now went and talked to Jacob about Dinah. So verse 8. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourself. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." So this Shechem, Hamor, the dad of Shechem, is basically trying to, you see blended families when there's divorce or death, people got to remarry, whatnot. But here, I mean, hold on one sec. He wants a blended, like, area, town, two different cultures, two different people. All right, now go ahead.
I got the old version, and a lot of these words aren't matching up with your reading.
Oh yeah,
I got the old King James.
Yeah, and that we all got different ones, so that it'll be.
They're close, but they're not.
Yeah, right.
They're close, but they're not.
Do you want one?
Possessions.
Do you want one?
Properties. No, that's good.
Because I got some more in there.
I'm on the right one. 34. Okay. I'm on the right one.
All right. I mean, I got other Bibles in there if you want. Yeah.
You said properties, and it says possessions.
I got NIV, he's got NIV, but his is worded different mine.
Yeah, I mean, because mine is old NIV, and yours is after 2011.
Yeah,
and
the old King James.
Yeah.
Back then, their property and possessions were their girls and their
slaves and all
covered
kinds.
it all, didn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty well.
So yeah, there'll be a lot of.
Anyway.
Mine, it says raped.
Oh, it does really.
Right.
Yeah, and see, this was what I say violated her. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of little different words, and so like when I study this, nothing that I study uses NIV that I use. So Rick uses, I think, ESV. Tony Evans is CSB. There's a lot of that, and then there's some NLT. So like anything that I'm reading and researching, none of it uses the same words. But I kind of like that. That way, I kind of know. I don't have to go look for myself. I know what other translation. Like my son, he always comes out with the King James all the time. He's like, "Oh, this is the real Bible," and then we get in an argument about it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd have to go back and get a Greek one if it was a real one.
That's right.
Yeah, 'cause this is the King James New Version.
Yeah, it's different than what his is.
Yeah, the New King James. Yeah. All right, so he's wanting to intermingle. This Hamer guy wanting to intermingle with two totally different groups of people. Okay, and this is definitely something like God had told Jacob that I don't want your sons to be marrying these Canaanite people or Hivites, whichever one they are. Okay, don't want you to be doing that. But this is the way, okay, even nowadays, culture can make sin look normal. Look how things are going nowadays. Everything that, used to be done in the dark is now starting to be out in the light. And now you're a bad guy if you start saying, hey, no, that's a sin. Well, that hurts in people's feelings. You can't tell them that. But that's the way culture can do that. It can make sinful stuff be the norm, and then the holy stuff be the abnormal stuff. So lack of morals, yeah.
That's
right.
They didn't have them back in the 50s and 60s, but it happens a lot today.
Mhm.
And I tell people when they're doing stuff wrong, I let them know about it, whether they don't like it or not.
Yeah.
But I don't use those words, okay?
Yeah. right. All right, so verse 11 and 12. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the girl as my wife. So Shechem here is trying to smooth this over, like, hey, I know I raped your daughter, but like, hey, just go ahead. I'll pay you whatever I need to, and let's just fix this, handle this. So verses 13 through 17. Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, and see, this is why. Let me point out, where's the one where we got Dinah? Dinah. That's why she even makes the genealogy list right here, because there's important stuff that has happened to her. Most women, usually don't get credit for when you had daughters and stuff, but they actually put Dinah in there. So 13, because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully. Now get that, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, we can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will give our consent to you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go. Okay, right at the very beginning right there in verse 13, Jacob's son replied deceitfully. So they're saying all this, not meaning a single bit of it. They're already coming up with the plans. And guess where they learned that? From their dad, Jacob. His name literally meant deceiver. So they are getting this. It runs thick in their blood. And then, these guys that are all going to agree to get circumcised, they're adults. Like, I have a feeling, that's pretty painful, because a couple days in, they're still going to be resting.
This is the second time that's got brought up, right?
What?
Earlier circumcision.
Well,
Just earlier.
You know that word's hard to.
yeah, so the Abraham, yeah, he had to get, that was part of the thing. Now, all Abraham's lineage from then on, yeah, under the covenant.
Slaves and everybody else.
Yeah, slaves, everybody that Abraham owned or worked for or lived with, anybody that was associated, all had to get circumcised. And that's why they're saying here that, hey, we can't be with your daughters, or our daughters can't be with you unless they're circumcised. So they're the Shechem dudes believing this, like, oh, okay, I get it. Well, so all we gotta do is be circumcised, and then we're gonna get all your daughters. Like, that sounds like not too bad, a couple of days of pain, and then we can get them. Because I'm assuming they probably know what their beliefs and all that are. So, all right, so the sons here had no intention of cohabitating with these people. Like I said, they're saying all this deceitfully. They're just talking the game right now to Shechem. So, all right, 18 through 23. Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man who was the most honored of all his father's household lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So this dude is not wait, he's excited. He's like, I'm gonna go get circumcised right now. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak their fellow townsmen. Now, if you remember from way back in Genesis, where does business always get done? At the city gates. Remember Sodom and Gomorrah? Lot was always at the city gate. So that's why they're going there to get the business done. And then 21, these men are friendly towards us, they said, talking about Jacob and his sons. Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters, and they can marry ours. But the men will consent to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Won't there, and that right there, the way that as they themselves are, that's why I think they already realize that, hey, that's their culture. So if we want to be intermingled, we got to do it. Verse 23, won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us give our consent to them, and they will settle among us. So it's not only the women that they're after. They realize, hey, these Jacob people, this family, like, they're rich. They got all kinds of good stuff here. Like, we can do the circumcision. We're going to get a lot more than just the women, because what comes with the women, you usually get a maid servant with them, and then, a few animals for wedding gifts and all that. So Hamor and Shechem, they go to these city gates, but what's kind of neat here is that they're trying to deceive the townspeople into doing this, while Jacob's sons are deceiving them. So we got a lot of deceiving going on right here. And then to the townspeople, we got, it's kind of like a good news, bad news. Good news is like, hey, these people have lots of daughters, lots of livestock, lots of property, possessions, and we can get all this, okay? But there's a big if we get circumcised. So that's the bad news. But the people at the city gates are gonna not mind it. But then we can relate this to now, okay? So how many times have we done stupid things for gain or some kind of worldly pleasure? I mean, yeah, right? Exactly right. And I mean, it happens all the time. So we're reading this and we're like, man, that, being circumcised as an adult just for this and that, but we've done stupid stuff just as stupid, if not stupider than that. And then the worldly pleasure or the gain that it gives us only lasts for a short time, but the sin will always matter, which that will come up again. All right, so 24 and 25. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. And here we go. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon, and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. So Simeon and Levi are 100% blood to Dinah. Okay, Simeon and Levi. It's not half brothers, half sisters. They're 100%. Yeah, full blood from Leah. So that's why I feel like they were like the gang leaders of this operation. And then verse 26, this is where we're going to get evidence that like Dinah was actually held hostage. So verse 26 says, they put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. So I feel like she's been there the whole time. Dinah has. And then 27, the sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. So it said that Simeon and Levi took the sword and killed every male, but it says all the brothers, sons of Jacob, so it's meaning all of them, join in the looting. Okay, so if they're joining in the looting, it basically is meaning that they're approving of the murder and all the mayhem that they just called. If they're partaking in it, at least even just in the end of it, that means that they didn't feel too bad about what their other brothers did, because they're joining right along. They might not actually did any murdering, but they're not disagreeing with.
They're cheering them on.
That's right. That's right.
Sin is a sin.
Yep. All right. So let's see. 20. So the massacre for what we just read, the massacre of all the males and the plundering of the city, like the looting, went way beyond the reasonable or wise or just punishment like this Shechem dude should have got. For Simeon and Levi, this killing will actually come back into play later in Genesis when Jacob's going to give out basically his blessings on his son. We'll see this kind of take part again. But sin, okay, any sin puts people in danger, no matter where, when, time. Just like the sin that the Shechem dude committed with Dinah, then it made the brothers mad. Well, then the brothers were so mad that they wound up killing all these people, and that's going to put other people in danger later. And just we're going to get ready and read, like Jacob's already afraid of his life. So, well, let me finish 30, and then I'll get to the last point. So, verse 30. Did I finish 29? They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the house. So they pretty much took everything from...
Everything in the city.
Yeah, everything. From the animals. Well, I don't think I read 28 either. No, they seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. And 29, they carried off all their wealth and all their women, children, taking as plunder everything in the house. So it's, legit looting everything. It's like what you see when, sometimes in the cities, all that happens.
St. Louis has right.
Right. Wipe out everything. Their flocks, their herds. So like I said, this was beyond reasonable punishment that these people should have got. There's when something's in self-defense, that's actually, not considered murder under God's law. But this right here, obviously, was not reasonable. Let me read 30 and 31. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me a stench to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." But they replied, "Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?" So the brothers are still mad. They don't care what they did. They feel justified about it. But now Jacob's kind of freaking out because, like I said, sin can put everyone in danger. Jacob's worried about, hey, if all these townspeople from the Canaanites and Perizzites, they all get together, we're going to be outnumbered and we're all going to die. So do you think that this will hurt Jacob's credibility with how his kids acted? So we've all seen, most of us have kids, and we all have seen other people's kids. So when you see another person's kid acting like an idiot, don't you automatically think, hey, I bet their parents are idiots? I mean, y'all laugh, but that's
you
right.
can assume that pretty quick.
That or their,
Well,
See-
like you said.
Yeah, right. And so, I mean,
The parents
okay.
aren't doing their job. They
That's
do
right.
it
And, sometimes kids, will do dumb things even though they know better, but
See a little kid that's 2 years old in a restaurant and screaming and hollering and the parents are laughing at him.
yeah.
Both of them just laugh.
If you get some food today,
Opened up a can
if
of
you
worms
get a person
here.
today in the store, you get child services call on them. And when I grew up,
Yeah,
Dad said the woodshed, or he whooped me in the store and didn't hear nothing from nobody.
Right.
Dad didn't have to, he pointed that finger. That's
yeah.
like,
That was it.
that's all.
sometimes there can be an underlying issue with that kid.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
you can be quick to judge. I've been there before.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And-
you find out later that kid had a special need
I
or
understand, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
disability.
For
you're like,
sure.
Wow, I wish I wouldn't have done that or said that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so
Yeah.
How many years ago
But
I said
if
something?
you go back to like what Tom was saying, the 2-year-old screaming in a
Yeah, that's not
restaurant
right.
and the parents laughing.
That's
just
not
egging
right.
them on.
Most
They're not
parents,
gonna be
most
laughing
parents,
if
if
they
that
get their
kid
problem.
has a special need, they're not gonna be laughing
No.
at that kid.
Or they'll take the
No.
kid and go to the bathroom.
They're gonna be more
Yeah.
embarrassed than do
My
anything.
kids
Yeah.
are telling me all three need slapped.
Or
But-
Or to the bathroom and talk to, or wait till they settle down.
So yeah. So I mean, you can see how parents will get judged by what their kids do. So in this area, this Canaanite, Perizzite area, I'm sure people are like, these people might not be such great people after all. They claim to be these God followers, and here they just killed a whole city of males, and they took all the women, the chickens, the cows, and everything.
they take their women.
Yeah. That's right. So, all right. So 35. We'll go to the end of 35 today, and this is where Jacob, if we're not still 100% sure he's all in for God yet, at the end of chapter 33, when he built that altar called the El Eloi Israel, which meant God of Israel, and his name changed to Israel. But here in 35, according to that paper that Russell gave us a couple weeks ago, we're going to get to the part where, okay, if he wasn't all in then, if he said 3/4, he's going to be pretty much all in what we're going to get ready and read. All right, so 35 verse 1, it says, Then God said to Jacob, remember he's scared, go up to Bethel. God's not scared, Jacob's scared. Go up to Bethel and settle there and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. So Bethel, that's where you're supposed to be going before. This is the place, if you remember, where he had the dream. We hear Jacob's ladder, Jacob's stairway. This is where God confirmed the Abrahamic covenant with Jacob. And that's back in chapter 28, verses 13 and 15. And this so far, okay, it said there, God said, and build an altar. So God said, build an altar. This is the first time in Scripture that we see God commanding one of these patriarchs, from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob, to actually build an altar. Most time they did it on their own accord, but this time God's like, hey, you get there and do it. You got something with that?
No.
Oh, you look like something went off.
No.
No? Okay. Till afterwards, then you'll be like, hey, what about this?
I can't think of anything right now.
All right, so, and I could be wrong about that, but I was thinking, so I wrote it down.
Thinking what?
Huh?
Thinking what?
That, that this is the first time we actually see God commanding to build an altar. Everybody else did it, on their own accord. as far as like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now Lot, we never did even see him do it. So verses 2-4. Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him. All right, here it is. This is where we think, okay, finally Jacob's all in. Get rid of the foreign gods you have with you and purify yourself and change your clothes. Verse 3, then come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone. Verse 4, so they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had, and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Yes.
Okay, so this is,
See, I knew he
This-
had
this-
some. I could read him.
well, this is my thought process behind this. So this is where Jacob completes the covenant with God,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
And he's also letting all his relatives and his kids and everybody, he's professing his faith outward. He's telling everybody about his faith. Like when
There
you
you
get
go.
baptized,
Yeah.
you get baptized, you let everybody know, I believe in God.
Yeah.
And this is where Jacob's doing it now.
To his family, saying, "Hey, let all this other idol stuff let's get rid of it." Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. All right, so let's get to that. So when Jacob said there in verse 2, get rid of the foreign gods you have with you and purify yourself and change your clothes. So there's 3 steps right here that anyone, even now, can follow when they're returning to God. First thing is get rid of all foreign idols. Now, this can be anything you love, okay, more than God. Like just even take your family. You could love God first, then family. Anything you serve, say your career, your job, anything you serve more than God, anything you value more than God. Nowadays it's time. Everybody's like, I got time. Well, look at all you guys in here. You made time for God, like we do constantly each week. And anything actually you fear, okay, more than God. We talked about fear God. I don't have it with me, but Tony Evans actually wrote that the best of what actually fear God actually means, where you're just in awe of his. Golly, I don't want to mess it up. I have to go back, but we've read it before. I need to memorize that.
Take God seriously.
Yeah, there you
Has to do
go.
With respect, yeah.
Yeah, respect.
With
There you
respect
go.
Because you love him.
Yeah, and what he has done for you, and that in the end, his righteousness will be just. Everybody's gonna get judged. So all those things, different things, can be an idol. It's not like these people. You remember them figurines that they had before. That Rachel stole from Laban. That was actually chapter 31, verse 19. That's, I'm pretty sure what Jacob is talking about mostly here is those little figurine things. So when Jacob is telling them that, he knows, I'd say by now that Rachel had those things. That had to be kind of a tough conversation too, a little bit. Hey, you're telling your wife she's got to get rid of something that she held dear, apparently, if she was going to lie about being on the rag and sitting on them to protect them idols. So that's something that even, if we see our wife or a family member that has something that's an idol more than what God is, we need to be, confronting them nicely,
This is for the 10 Commandments, right?
Yes,
And the
absolutely.
golden cow.
Yep.
When he come down from the mountain, they were worshiping the golden cow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what he meant by get rid of the false gods.
Yeah, and so here, the Rachel, one of Jacob's wives, had these figurines from like her old family.
Mhm.
And then that's why he's bringing this up. Be like, hey, we need to get rid of those. Scripture doesn't actually tell us exactly what they are, but basically there were some kind of little figurine things that she had, that her family used to worship. So that's step one, get rid of the foreign idols. And then 2, it says purify yourself. This is basically just an extension of step 1. But get rid of, and I just put it, the garbage in your life. I'm going to go, here's a reference thing. 1 Peter, apparently it's the only one I got. 1 Peter 1, 13 through 15. It's talking about, now that you all heard this, you can't claim ignorance anymore, and that's what this is talking about. 1 Peter 1, 13 through 15. It says, therefore, prepare your minds for action. Be self-controlled. Set your hope fully on the grace to be given you when Jesus Christ is revealed. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance. So, it's meaning like before you knew Christ, you didn't know some things were wrong. You know what I mean? But then if you claim to know Christ and have Christ as your Lord and Savior,
What a sin is.
yeah, and you can't be doing the sins over and over and claim, well, I didn't know, claim ignorance on it. That's what this is talking about. So as obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires that you had when you lived in ignorance. If you become a believer, you can't being like, well, hey, God, I didn't know. It's all wrote right here. Okay, it's up to you to read it. And then verse 15. But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all that you do. So, obviously, if you have Jesus, you should be striving to be like Jesus in all that you do. So that went along with that. All right. So we got purify yourself, get rid of all the garbage in your life, and then the third part, change your clothes. Basically, I when I first read it, I was thinking the whole deny yourself, take up your cross daily, where you're a new creation. That's kind of what I thought. But then Tony Evans had something that I kind of like the way he put it. This is basically changing your clothes is symbolizing a realignment of your life. So basically getting your priorities back straight when you come to God. There was another story, and I can't remember exactly what it was, about a coat. If anybody don't ring a bell to anybody, somebody had a coat once. Russell Brown talked about it one time, and it was pretty neat. But I couldn't remember what he was talking about, so that's why I couldn't research it. But so basically, change your clothes, realign your life. He said reorient, or so I didn't know what that word meant, so I had to look up. Right, I know what realign means. Basically, get your priorities back straight and get on the narrow path.
If they have idols or good luck charms, whatever you want to call it, in their clothes,
Mm-hmm. Hey, there you
that was
go.
by the wayside too. Just
That's
like
right.
their old clothes.
Rachel come and sticking those in her pocket while she was walking. That's a good point, Richard. And then verse 4 there, when it talked about the rings in their ears, we don't really know exactly what they were. God's not against jewelry. Okay, I just want to point that out. But these might have been some kind of idol thing, part of that thing. I don't know. That what Rachel had, or these rings could have actually been stolen material from the Shechemites, from what we just read about in 34. And it was like, hey, you stole those, get rid of that. We're not having that going around with us. Either way, whatever those rings were, it's something that God did not like, and that's why Jacob said, hey, we got to get rid of this. But the one thing I want to point out is, it says at the end of verse 4, they buried them under the oak tree. But they buried it. Why didn't Jacob just go ahead and have them destroyed? Instead all these idols, this sin stuff, should have just have them destroyed instead of just burying. Because to me, I'm thinking if Jacob had them buried, it's like, hey, let's put them right here. But in case we need them again, we can come back and get them. Should just went ahead and just wiped them out, burned them, melted them down, did something with them. But instead, he just had them buried. So that was one thing that kind of stuck out.
This one's saying that he was by, that with the tree which was by Shechem. So that's his grave. They took it and gave the stuff back. That's what I'm reading it. They're sending it back to where, trying to undo it.
So a lot of that stuff was then stolen
That's
stuff.
according to- that's what I'm getting from that, the way it says. It says he
Okay.
was buried by that tree, which was by Shechem.
Shechem. So that okay. So like okay, hey, we're sorry for killing you and stealing all your stuff. Here, go
Here it
have
is
it.
back.
That makes it kind of even worse.
See,
Yeah.
I got a tattoo on my hand.
Yeah.
My ex-fiance died last year with cardiac arrest. Is that a sin?
So there's a whole debate on that. I don't think it
Yeah,
is.
it's not a stupid tattoo like
Right.
everybody wears. It's a in memory.
Yeah, and so I don't think it is. But now there's a lot of debate out there about sin and piercings and all that stuff. But I mean, I look at the Robertsons. I mean, they got look at Shane.
Look at Brandon Lake that sings so many
Yeah.
songs.
Oh, see, I don't know what he looks like.
Long hair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So no, I don't feel like it is. Now some people.
Or Shane, like I said, he got all the.
Yeah, and his tattoo he used. So I don't know if you know Shane. What's Shane's
I
last
know
name?
Shane. He's a sheepdog, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
I know him.
So
I'm a
he,
sheepdog.
yeah, so he's got that tattoo that he used to use in the prison to help bring people to Christ because it's,
That's me.
yeah, and they're talking about the stairway and all like that's really
It's
cool.
religious.
Yeah, that's right. So no, to me, I think it's fine. But like I said, you talk to some people, like some people are ate up with it, like oh no, because that where the temple of God, our bodies are,
You're
and
not
you
supposed to destroy it.
Ain't
right.
supposed to overeat either.
That's right. That's right.
Them ones that's hollering about the tattoos sitting there chowing down.
Yeah.
Same thing, What's the difference?
That's-
If it's a sin, it's a sin.
That's right. Well, and it doesn't. It's not like it's hurting. You know what I mean? So
Well,
I
to
don't
me,
know.
if it's something that disrespects God, that's one thing. but
That's
it's
right.
not.
Right.
To me, that's not.
It says in
Yeah.
the Bible not to get tattoos.
It does.
Yeah, I can't tell you what verse offhand it is, but it does, it says it there.
What, I
Nothing
would
is-
say, what do they represent?
Yeah.
What's here?
I mean,
My
this
daughter's got
tattoo's not
one, hey,
stupid.
cause she loves the Lord and sings.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's got one somewhere, but just like these rings and good luck charms and stuff, if it represents one of them that you believe in instead of God,
Yeah.
hey, that's totally wrong.
Just like
Yeah.
politics, we don't discuss that, right?
That's right. There you go. But I mean, you're right. Though, like it's a debate. I mean, it's out there. And I would if that can be your homework for the week. Go and search up
Be
that.
condemned for having it.
No, I
I was
don't
wondering
think
because
so.
I was gonna remove it.
Yeah.
No.
No, I don't think I would worry about that.
All right.
All right. So we got the three steps.
Oh, fine.
Why didn't he destroy them? The idols, he said he just buried them because, hey, giving them back to the people that they killed, I guess. So verse 5, it says, Then they set out, and the terror of God fell upon the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. So Jacob didn't have to worry, and so they're leaving. Okay, so now God went ahead and just struck fear in all the neighboring people, them Canaanites and Perizzite. So nobody's going to be going after them with retribution.
This is a hand of God. Hey, you obeyed me.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of you.
Yeah,
Well, they're Bethel, which is house of God.
yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So verse 6, it says, Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, which means God of Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Let's see, verse 8, 9, and 10. Now Deborah, this is kind of just stuck in here. It comes into play later on. But now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak below Bethel. So it was named Allen Bakuth. All right, verse 9. After Jacob returned from Paddan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel. So he named him Israel. So this goes back to when he wrestled with him. Just, God likes to repeat things. Because I think, especially for people like me, that needs the repetitive in this, it needs to hear things over and over.
Several times.
That's right. And sometimes you still don't listen. All right, verse 11.
He picks them out, he likes to change their names too.
Yeah,
Like
so,
Abram to Abraham and,
yeah.
Saul
Man,
to Paul,
yeah, what? I think I had something on that.
Sarah to Sarah.
I think that might come in here right after verse 11. So it says, and God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will come from your body. Okay, so it says, I am God Almighty. So God Almighty, which means El Shaddai, if you go back to the Hebrew, this is the same name, okay, El Shaddai, that God used for himself when he renamed Abraham as well. And then same promises starting from Abraham. So right here when it says in verse 11, a nation and a community of nations. So a nation, we're going to get the nation of Israel, 12 tribes of Israel from Jacob's sons, okay? So we got what nation, but then what does it mean by community of nations? So many nations will wind up sharing a feast with Abraham. They're basically the same verse, but Matthew 8, verse 11, and it's also Luke 13:29. But like I said, it's basically the same verse. So Matthew 8, 11 says, I say to you that many will come from the east and the west, and this is Jesus talking, and will take their place at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. So the meals that we, new heavens, new earth, all that, all nations will get through them. The whole Jew, Gentile things, we're basically all going to meet with the Feast of Abraham. I think it actually, and I could be wrong, but when we get, at the end of Revelation with the wedding supper of the Lamb and we're all there together, I have a feeling that's what that feast is talking about, but I'm not for sure about that. I just know that verse come up on the reference things, and that's why it's talking about, yes, we are going to get Israel, we are going to get a nation from Jacob, but then because of all that, and then obviously Jesus comes through the line, we're going to get many nations all together. All right, so verse 12 through 14. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I also give to you, and will give this land to your descendants after you. Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. So like I said, that's some of the same promises Abraham got. I'm going to make many descendants and all that. Verse 14, Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel. All right, so the last little part, it's a little bit of review and then just a few new things. 16 through 18. So then they moved on from Bethel. We don't know why. Okay, Scripture doesn't tell us why. Doesn't say if God told them to or not, but they're moving out of this Bethel. While they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel, began to give birth and had great difficulty. Verse 17, and as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, don't be afraid, for you have another son. As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Ben-Oni, but his father named him Benjamin. All right, so rewind. God has finally answered Rachel's prayer for a second son. I'll just turn back to it real quick. But in chapter 30, verse 24. Well, I'll read 22 through 24. Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her and opened her womb. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son and said, God has taken away my disgrace. She named him Joseph, so that's her first son, and said, may the Lord add to me another son. And actually, Joseph means, may he add. So she was already wanting another son. So here, she's finally getting her son, her second son, but she dies in the process. Now, when the midwife there said, hey, don't be afraid, for you have another son. So Rachel, I don't even know if she ever even seen her son. Because I'm picturing her laying there, giving birth, midwife's there. And, midwives can tell she's dying, but says, hey, don't be afraid. You have your second son, your other son. And that's basically the last thing she hears and before she dies. So like I said, I don't know if she even got to see Benjamin. It doesn't really say exactly how it all went down. But now another neat point about Benjamin is actually the first son. We got through all 12 sons of Jacob. This is the first one that he's named.
First one, Jacob's name.
Yeah, Jacob named.
Because she named him though.
She named him, but he renamed him.
Yeah, renamed
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
So she was asking if she saw him, she was still alive to name him.
Yeah, but if she's laying there dead, and it's like, hey, you got another. So this is how I kind of picture it. She's laying there, midwife's up there giving the birth. Midwife is like, hey, don't be afraid, you got a son. She's in so much pain. She's like, name him Ben Oy, and then she died. That's what I'm picturing. Like, I have no idea. She could be up there watching. I have no idea. But that's just kind of what I'm figuring.
It don't matter.
No, it doesn't. But just knowing that, hey, I think the midwife was trying to console her, like, hey, relax, you got your second son. It's fine. Go in peace. I guess they say at funerals. Yeah, and then so Jacob did not like Ben-Oni, so he named him Benjamin. And then, like I said, that's the first time Jacob actually pulled the dad card and actually named one of his sons. All right, so 19. Do I have anything else on that?
Their meanings was different.
Yeah. So the meanings are totally different. So that's a good point. So Benjamin means son of my right hand. Okay, but now here's something crazy. The Benjamites, whatever you want to say it, you got to go through into Judges and First Chronicles. But the Benjamites were good with their left hand. So let me just pull one up. Judges. I got Judges 3:15 and 20.
That one king we talked about, that one at your house. He left-handed and
Yeah.
stabbed the whatever.
Was he a Benjamite?
You
Yeah.
had that conversation at your house and your wife looked it up.
All right. So here's just one of them. Judges 3:15 says, again, the Israelites cried out to the Lord, and He gave them a deliverer, Ehud, a left-handed man, the son of Gurah, the Benjamite. But Benjamin means son of my right hand, but yet they wind up being better with their left. I mean, that's how God can work right there.
Somebody had a brain fart.
Yeah, and then in First Chronicles 12:2 also talks about, and there's a couple other ones in Judges, but they talk about Benjamites actually being left-handed. All right, so 19, it says, so Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day, the pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Now, we read that to this day. This is at least to Moses' day. Okay, that doesn't mean it's still there 6,000 years roughly later, 5,000. So it was there actually when Moses was writing this. 21. Israel moved, and see here we got Israel, not Jacob. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben, went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. So Bilhah, you can look, is the stepmom somehow to Reuben. And even in this culture, so we talked a lot about the maidservants that can take over for a wife, but even in this culture, this was still considered incest, even though Reuben was from Leah, okay, and Reuben slept with Bilhah, but that was still considered incest, even though I guess bloodly it's not, but it still was considered in that cultural incest. So here's what so we think, okay, like maybe his stepmom, he was lustful after her. But a lot of the commentaries that I was reading was talking about, hey, this wasn't so much about lust for Reuben as it was Reuben is trying to usurp Jacob's authority, trying to be like, basically take his place as the top, because Reuben's the firstborn, okay? So he's trying to usurp his dad. And this will wind up costing Reuben, because sin always matters, which we talk about a lot in here. Sin always matters, and this will cost Reuben, and we'll get into that later towards the end of Genesis. And this is the one that it's with Jacob's blessing. But it costs some other ones. Simeon and Levi is a few different things later. Actually, I don't even know if that comes up in Genesis, but this does. That
concubine mean?
Like the maidservant. A concubine is like, okay, so I married Val. If I married Val, but I had another wife, the other wife would be the concubine.
They're just not wives, they're just
Just
lovers
a
per se.
woman.
Yeah.
Cause like,
You want a concubine, move to Utah.
what's that?
You want a concubine, move to Utah.
Is that right?
12 wives.
Do they really still out there?
Or-
Some of them have 12 wives.
No, kidding. Well, what was the one that you bring
One
up
had
a lot?
7
Had
wives, one a night.
golly.
Solomon had
Solomon, that's it.
700 wives and 300
I think
concubines.
it's, yeah, 700 wives
703, yeah.
and 300 wives.
Yeah.
You have wife for each day of the year, I think.
700 wives and 300
Concubines.
concubines.
So yeah, concubine. So like I think what like Bilhah and Zilpah are considered the
That's
concubine.
what I would consider them.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're the servants of the other two women.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So okay, this will cost Reuben. He will actually lose his firstborn status. Okay, later on, and just because I know this for studying it so much, but you go to Revelation 7, when you get to the 144,000, it lists off the 144,000 comes from the 12 tribes of Israel, but the first one that listed is Judah, not Reuben, because Reuben is going to lose his whatever that is, firstborn, yeah, birthright, whatever it is for the firstborn. But that, nothing in the Bible is ever written just because. So when I studied Revelation, it's not just for any reason that Reuben is not listed first. It's because of what he did here, by sleeping with his dad's wife, pretty much. All right, so then Israel heard of it, but yet he's being quiet again about it. And then we read the whole list of the sons again for people that didn't print out sheets. The Bible puts it in here for us. Jacob had 12 sons. The sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. And I remember Rachel's dead now. The sons of Rachel's maidservant Bilhah, Dan, and Naphtali. The sons of Leah's maidservant Zilpah, Gad, and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. All right, so then 27 to 29. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre near Kiriath Arba. This is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years. Then he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, old and full of years. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. So just two things to pull out there. Esau and Jacob, they're reconciling that we seen last week. Still good. Esau didn't kill Jacob. Okay. They buried their dad together. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, so Isaac, when he said he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, old and full of years, and then he had also two of his sons bury him. And that is almost exactly how Abraham's last verses go. If you go all the way back to chapter 25, verses 7 through 9, it says, altogether Abraham lived 175 years, and Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age, an old man, full of years, and he was gathered to his people, so just like that, and then his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him. So it's just crazy the similarities between the two. So that's it. That's all I got today. Right? Hour and 35 minutes, or hour and 35 seconds. That's pretty good.